Well, hey, everybody, this is Robert, and welcome to Outbreak News Interviews. Now, the warm weather of summer is upon us, and people will be spending more time doing outdoor activities, as will potentially dangerous pathogen carrying critters like mosquitoes and ticks. Now, my guest today will discuss the risk mosquitoes and ticks pose to Americans across the country. In addition, she'll explain how the public, you and me, can best protect ourselves and family members from these bloodthirsty pests. So joining me today is Lee Haines, PhD. Dr. Haines is a medical entomologist and associate research professor at the Department of Biological Sciences at the University of Notre Dame. Dr. Haines, welcome to the show, ma'am.
Hello, Robert and listeners. This is very exciting to be here.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate you coming on. Dr. Haines, when can people across the United States expect to see mosquitoes and ticks outside?
Now.
No, yeah.
Now, absolutely now. Mosquitoes you're going to see when it warms up. So if you're in a northern climate, if it hits about 70 degrees Fahrenheit, you can expect to see the mosquitoes because they're not very good in colder weather. But ticks are so hardy. If it's 40 to 45 degrees Fahrenheit, they are out, about, active, and biting you.
So like down here in Florida, I don't think there's nary a time there's no mosquitoes.
I believe you are correct.
Yeah.
And my condolences for being in Florida, because Florida is probably the highest risk state
Yeah.
for all vector-borne diseases.
So in the US, which insect-borne diseases are we at risk for? Let's go ahead and start with mosquito-borne and then tick-borne.
How long do you have?
As much time as you got.
I would say for mosquito-borne diseases, the biggest risk for most people would be West Nile virus. It's the one most people hear about. There are other vector-borne diseases spread by mosquitoes that you often see highlighted in the news, such as Eastern equine encephalitis. You hear these type of outbreaks. But for the most part, it's West Nile virus. However, saying that, many of the southern states, including Florida and Texas, they're reporting cases of malaria and dengue fever, which are spread by mosquitoes and very dangerous.
Yeah. How about the tick-borne diseases?
So the tick-borne diseases, most people, I would say, across the United States and Canada have heard of Lyme disease. That is a huge one. The CDC predicts 500,000 cases of Lyme disease to be expected this year. So this tells you how systemic this is. And with Lyme, it's spread by ticks. There's other ticks that spread different diseases, such as babesiosis, which is one that's pretty dangerous to people who are elderly. Anaplasmosis, Powassan virus, Rocky Mountain spotted virus. I mean, lots of viruses spread by ticks.
Yeah, and one interesting thing is that sometimes the ticks are carrying more than one pathogen too, so it's possible to have a co-infection.
Exactly. You have done your research. I like it. This is true.
Microbiologist.
Okay, that explains it.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing, I don't know if you're going to ask me this, so I'm just going to jump in. The other interesting thing about tick bites, especially the Lone Star tick, is that it may not spread a disease to you, but it may cause an allergy to red meat. So then you won't enjoy barbecues anymore if you're a proper carnivore. And it can be life-threatening because it can trigger anaphylactic shock, but really it affects the quality of life for an individual that has this allergy developed.
Yeah, so you're talking about alpha-gal.
I am indeed.
Yeah.
Alpha-gal syndrome.
Dr. Haines, so let's talk a little bit about prevention. So when you're out there shopping for insect repellents, what should people be looking for?
I would say based on something called the arm in cage methodology, where you coat your arm in an insecticide or repellent either, and you put it into a cage of hungry female mosquitoes, you know quite quickly whether it works or not. So they use this as the gold standard testing for the efficacy of a repellent. So much of this testing has been done by the Consumer Reports group, as well as scientists like myself that have an insectary and are able to do this. So what I would say is the ingredients that are the most efficacious are 20 to 30% DEET, anything that contains that. DEET works for a long time, so I highly recommend it. It's safe for kids. But what I would say is that it melts plastic. So if you're using it and spraying it around your body and you have anything like a phone protector screen, it's going to be dissolved. And this is disconcerting because you're like, if it actually dissolves plastic, what's it going to do to my skin? But it's very safe for your skin. So the alternative is not to use it or any repellent, and then you could succumb to particularly Lyme disease, but many of these vector-borne diseases. So if you don't want to use DEET, there are other really good repellents out there that have been tested with this arm and cage. One is picaridin, which they use a lot in Europe, and it's really good for ticks and or mosquitoes. It's not as greasy as ticks. It's almost as good as DEET, if not better, if you're sweating. And it's more, I guess, appreciated by people because it's not greasy, like I said, and not smelly. And it doesn't melt plastic. So something like that is I highly recommend. And then the other one, if you want people to have, or if people want to have something more natural, is the oil of lemon eucalyptus. And with that one, it should be at least 30%. Sorry, I didn't say it was 20% picaridin, but 30% oil of eucalyptus. The key with that one is it's not so safe for children, young children. So you might want to do some research before you use that one in particular, but it works. It's good stuff.
So it's considered equivalent to the others?
It can be considered equivalent if you make a point to reapply it very often. That's the thing, because a lot of the repellents aren't sweat proof or waterproof. And so those ones, if you want a really longer lasting repellent, definitely it's the 20 to 30% DEET, 20% picaridin, and the oil of eucalyptus lasts about 4 to 6 hours. So you do have to reapply it.
Okay, so the three that you mentioned, are they all effective against both ticks and mosquitoes?
They are indeed. Yes, they are.
Good stuff. Dr. Haines, what other insect repellent products and methods work best other than the sprays?
So you can wear protective clothing. Anything that is light in color is better because one, you can see the ticks if they land on you. And two, the mosquitoes, they don't like the color white or yellow as much. So they will go close to somebody or be attracted to somebody that's in darker colors. So just your fashion choices might allow you to stay a little bit protected from the insects. If you're going to be outdoors a lot in the woods, definitely permethrin impregnated clothing is a great option. And it just kills the insects as they approach you. There's things called tick gaiters because the ticks like to hang down usually a level below your knees when you're walking through brush. So you can wear these tick gaiters that are great. And then, of course, if you're going to be outside overnight, you have things like bug nets and bed covers, bed nets, they call them, to protect you from anything that's biting. It won't protect you from the gnats because they can get through that fine mesh or midges, but it certainly will protect you from the mosquitoes and ticks.
And what products are out there that are not so great that people
So there's more that are not great than are great. I would say the one that most people think about are these, what are they called? They're apps that you can have on your phone that release like an ultrasonic sound, or you can get these ultrasonic repellent devices that are supposed to repel mosquitoes. Sometimes you hear radio stations saying, okay, for the next 15 minutes, we're going to play this sound to clear your area of mosquitoes. Those are rubbish, absolute rubbish. They should not be sold because they end up giving you the false security that it works and you waste a lot of money. So I would say the big ones to ignore and never purchase are the ultrasonic repellents. Bug zappers. People love bug zappers. There's, you know, your lightsaber out there. They only marginally work. They usually kill a lot of other insects and not the mosquitoes.
Okay.
So they also give you this false security thinking, oh yeah, we're killing the mosquitoes. Don't recommend that because they're also removing your insect diversity, which you want to keep. Vitamin B is another one that you hear. If you take lots of it, you stink, and that smell doesn't like it helps repel the mosquitoes and ticks. It doesn't. So I highly encourage anybody that doubts this to start eating these vitamins and then go stick their arm in a cage. And you will soon find that the mosquitoes don't care when they're hungry. Another one that you see a lot of people gravitating towards because it's such a nice solution compared to wiping lotion all over you that's a repellent are these essential oil bracelets and impregnated bracelets and anklets. They do not work. And the reason they don't work is because they don't emanate whatever is impregnated in them very far. So they might, protect a band around your wrist, but that's it.
Gotcha.
So you might not get any bites where that band is, but you certainly will on your neck or your ankles. So really don't recommend that. Another complete waste of money. So I think those are the ones that stand out to me the most. I have heard a lot about citronella candles.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to ask you about that.
Yeah, the citronella candles. So they do marginally work because mosquitoes don't really like citronella, oil of citronella, but you have to have a lot of them around your feet and large ones around your feet. And the combination of the smell of the candle and the smoke helps a little bit. But if you have a wind blowing, it doesn't matter. The mosquitoes will find you unless you're sitting upwind of the smoke. So
Right.
I would say it's better to wear a repellent than to rely on citronella torches and candles.
Okay. Definitely take note of that.
Mm-hmm.
What other advice do you have for avoiding ticks first and then avoiding mosquitoes? Because there's differences.
Yeah, there's a lot of differences. So one thing I didn't mention is that you can plant for mosquitoes some of the more mosquito repelling plants.
Yes.
So they do emit aromas that the mosquitoes don't like, such as the citronella grass or lavender, sometimes catnip, and your herbs, basil, rosemary, lemon balm, lemongrass, these kind of things, lemony things the mosquitoes don't tend to like. But you have to be careful because sometimes they're toxic to your pets. So really look into that if you're planning on planting all around your house these repellent plants. There's also some tick deterrent plants like garlic, chrysanthemums, sage. They don't like those either, but that won't stop them from coming in. It just might be a little bit of an aromatic barrier and a nice way to make your garden look nice. So I would say there is some evidence that these plants do work to get rid of these in arthropod-borne diseases because you're just limiting the amount. But that would infer that you're going to spend all your time in your garden, right?
Yep.
And people don't; they leave. So it's tricky. But I would say for mosquitoes, the best way to avoid getting bitten would be to avoid the peak times that they're biting, so dawn and dusk. Make sure you modify your garden or wherever you're going to be so there's no standing water for insects, larvae, the mosquito larvae to grow and then emerge into hungry adults. And again, only the females will bite you. So look in your bird bath. If you look in your bird bath, do you have a bird bath, first of all?
Do I?
Yeah, do you?
No, no bird bath.
No bird bath. Do you have plants with planter basins that collect water?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Okay, those will be a beacon to any hungry female that wants to lay her eggs. So if you have those around, you're attracting them to that area. And if you happen to be there after she's laid her eggs, she's going to be absolutely ravenous for blood. So you're going to be the perfect opportunity to have a buffet feast, So that's something else that you could get rid of is standing water. If you want to not be bothered when you're having your barbecue, set up some fans, because mosquitoes are notoriously difficult flyers, or the weak flyers, I should say. They find it very difficult when it's windy, like midges. So you can blow them away. And those are the main things. And again, wear light colors, like I said. So just little tweaks can make your experience outdoors much better.
Now with ticks, I guess a big part is a full examination of your body when you come inside, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. I would say that's one of the only things that you can do other than wearing lighter clothing. Just being aware that they're there. Some regions, some states have a much higher tick burden than others. Any place that has beautiful cold winters usually have a lower abundance of ticks and mosquitoes for that matter. But places like Florida, I'm sorry, have huge populations.
But I think Pennsylvania is the Lyme disease capital of the country.
It is.
Yeah.
I believe it is. But places like Wyoming, yeah, no. Another place that's great to go to on vacation would be Hawaii. They have very few vector-borne diseases. So yeah, Hawaii and colder, much colder places. But the problem with ticks is that there's not a lot of predators, so they're not eaten. Like sometimes you can see that there's bats or guinea fowl, like chickens. They will eat ticks, but for the most part, they don't have a lot of predators. Whereas mosquitoes do. You know, the bats and the swallows and other frogs, they do eat the mosquitoes.
I know down here we see possums periodically, and they're supposed to be very hungry for ticks.
They're excellent tick predators. It's just that they remove them, they consume them, but the number of ticks that they're picking up is so small compared to how many are in the environment that it really doesn't do much. But you should certainly welcome possums in your vicinity. Definitely.
Okay, well, this has been very informative. Dr. Haines, any final thoughts on anything we discussed so far?
I would say my final thought would be watch out. The climate is rapidly changing, and areas that used to be free of these vector-borne diseases are no longer. And things that we cleared from the United States many years ago. I mean, the United States was declared free from malaria. I believe it was in the 1950s. Now malaria is back. Malaria cases, like I said, are in Florida and Texas now, and these are locally transmitted because people travel to these areas where there is malaria and they come back and they don't realize they're sick. And then the mosquitoes, local mosquitoes are there and they bite these people, and now suddenly there's a little bit of a malaria outbreak. That you will see leaving Florida and heading up north. The migration of the ticks are certainly heading north. The migration of the Lone Star tick that causes this alpha-gal syndrome is heading north. So you once thought you were safe, but as the winters warm, particularly the winters, and the increase of rainfall continues, these are beautiful habitats for these nasty creatures, as you said. Sadly, the butterflies and all the other good bugs are rapidly disappearing with all the insect extinctions that are happening. But I wish that would apply to the mosquitoes and ticks, but it's not.
Well, I'm guessing sometime in the future, maybe the biting midge will be a problem too with the Oroposh virus.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And blue tongue for our colleagues that are in the farming business, especially with sheep, it's a very bad disease. It kills. There's also many other tick-borne diseases that are agricultural significance. You hear quite a bit about cattle in some areas being killed by something called Theileria, and it is very rapidly causing the death of cow herds. You hear about bird flu that's going through with chickens, and that's not necessarily vector-borne, but you see this migrating further and further to other places that were once safe.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, in the United States, the biggest mosquito-borne problem is West Nile virus, and the biggest tick-borne is Lyme disease still.
Yeah. And growing. Yes.
growing.
I
Yep.
wanted, since you mentioned the tick-borne and the Lyme disease, my baptism coming here to the United States was getting a tick on me.
Oh no.
I know, never before. I come here and in November, I end up with a tick. Horrified. And so
May I ask, where did you come from?
I was originally in England before I
Oh,
moved
okay.
here, and then before that, I was from Canada. I am
Gotcha.
initially from Canada, but
Well,
never been exposed to ticks in November before.
well, there's no shortage of tick-borne disease in Canada now either.
No, Lyme disease is pretty
Okay.
rampant now too. But
Yeah.
what I want to say is for those of you who are listening that get a tick, because most of you will, when you grab it off of you, please don't cover it with petroleum or smoke it or anything else. The best thing you can do is grab some tweezers, grab those tweezers as close to your skin as possible, pinch the mouth parts of the tick, and pull straight out, no twisting. You'll see a hole, and that's from the hole that the tick made, but do not let go of that tick. Please put it into a baggie and put it into the freezer. And the reason I say that is because if you are diagnosed with something that's gone wrong with that bite and you get a bullseye rash, or you get any rash, in fact, you have that tick to show unequivocally to your doctor that this is the species that carries the tick or it carries the disease, as well as you can get tests done on that tick to confirm the presence of the bacteria or the virus that it's carrying. So it's really important to keep the tick, to not squish it or smother it, because you don't want it to spit into you. That's the thing. The
Yeah,
saliva is what is going to infect you.
that's right.
So if you squash it, it's in stress. It'll probably drool everywhere inside of you, and that's what you need to avoid.
Oh, very, very good advice. And I want to thank you, Dr. Lee Haines, for sharing your time and your expertise with us today. Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, it was my pleasure. It's a delight.